Deleted Peppa Pig episode, Peppa Pig and the Whispering Forest, which was never showed on TV. One day, Peppa Pig and her family went for a picnic in a new park outside the town. Daddy Pig said there was an old forest nearby where children used to play, but no one goes there anymore. Why? Asked Peppa. They say strange sounds can be heard there. At night, whispers calling names, Daddy mumbled with a laugh. But that's all just a story, of course. As the family spread out the blanket and settled down in the meadow, Peppa saw a pink silhouette among the trees. It was standing far away, but it looked familiar. "Mummy, someone's standing over there." "Probably just another child," said Mummy Pig. But when Peppa looked again, the figure was gone. Later, while playing alone, Peppa heard, "Peppa." She turned around. No one. "Peepaw." The whisper came from the forest, like someone was hiding behind the trees and calling her. Peppa stepped closer. In the thickets stood a creature. It was pink with long legs and a bent back. Its head looked like Peppa's, but the mouth was huge, filled with many sharp, dripping teeth. It stared at her with black, bottomless eyes, and it was smiling. "I'm Peppa too. The real one." Peppa screamed and ran. She glanced back. The creature wasn't chasing her, but it was now standing next to her family, and they were smiling at it as if they knew it. "Peppa, darling, where have you been?" Mummy Pig said sweetly, looking straight at the monster. "You're late, sister," it whispered. Deleted Peppa Pig episode, Peppa and the Black Mirror, which was never showed on TV. One day, while tidying up an old box under the stairs, Peppa found a strange object. A small handheld mirror with a crack in the corner and a curved inscription on the frame. "Look only in the dark." Hee, what nonsense!" Peppa giggled and slipped the mirror into her pocket. That night she couldn't sleep. Everyone else was asleep, but she lay in bed, turning the mirror over in her hooves. The room was dark. Peppa lifted the mirror to her face and froze. In the reflection, she didn't see herself. The one in the mirror looked similar, but had empty eyes, no pupils, a stretched-out face, and the arms were much longer. Peppa screamed and threw the mirror. It flew into the corner of the room and cracked even more. Since then, things in the house started to feel strange. In the morning, Mummy Pig found a note by the door. "You let me in." That night, the mirror was back on the nightstand. Peppa tried to throw it away, but it always returned. One morning, Daddy Pig walked into the room and saw Peppa at the mirror. She was standing still, whispering to the reflection. "Peppa, who are you talking to?" he asked. Peppa turned around, but her lips weren't moving. They moved only in the reflection. Deleted Peppa Pig episode, Peppa, Susie, George, and the Abandoned House, which was never showed on TV. One cloudy afternoon, Peppa, George, and Susie went out for a walk. "I heard there's an abandoned house over the hill," said Susie. "Nobody goes there. They say someone lives inside." "Nonsense," snorted Peppa. "Let's go, we'll just take a peek." George followed behind, clutching his toy dinosaur tightly. The house was indeed strange. The roof was broken, the windows boarded up, but the door was slightly open. "Just a quick look and we leave," Peppa whispered. Inside, it smelled of dust. The floorboards creaked under their hooves. In the corner stood an old mirror, and in it, something moved. "Look," Peppa pointed. "There's someone in the mirror." But the room was empty. It was just the three of them. And suddenly, a hand reached out from the mirror, translucent like mist. I stayed. "And you will stay, too," Peppa screamed. They grabbed each other and tried to run, but suddenly they heard someone crying. "Peppa," said Susie, "we need to leave, right now." But Peppa stopped. "Did you hear that?" They moved forward step by step until they reached a half-open door to a room that hadn't been there before. Inside, in the corner, someone was sitting on the floor. A figure with familiar glasses, a yellow shirt, brown fur. Pedro. He was hugging his knees and rocking back and forth, crying loudly. Pedro. Peppa took a step forward. The figure lifted its head. The face. It was almost like Pedro's. I tried to leave," he rasped. "But she won't let me." "Who?" "The one from the mirror. She's all of us now." And from behind his back, a ghostly figure emerged. And deleted Peppa Pig episode Scribbles, which was never showed on TV. One day at school, Madame Gazelle handed out new notebooks to the children. "You can draw anything you like in them," she said. "Just take care of them. These notebooks are special." Peppa got an old, worn-out notebook. On the last page, someone had scratched, "Do not erase. Do not draw jokes." Peppa just giggled. What nonsense. That evening at home, Peppa decided to test it. She drew a bunch of money, and within seconds, real bills appeared on the table, exactly like in the drawing. "Wow," Peppa froze. "It's a magic notebook." She hid it under her bed and went out the next day to play with Susie. At home, George stayed behind. He didn't know about the magic. He just wanted to draw. He opened Peppa's notebook and drew a funny, round head thing. He, George laughed. "The head thing came to eat our heads." He forgot all about the drawing. But that night, Peppa woke up to a sound, scraping, footsteps. From the darkness emerged a figure. It was the head thing, just like in the drawing, only it wasn't laughing. It was hissing. "Shh, here I come. Shh, who drew me? I eat." On a fresh page, someone had drawn Peppa with a cross over her face. Deleted Peppa Pig episode, The Mannequin in the Pig Family's House, which was never showed on TV. One day, Peppa and her mummy went to an antique shop. Mummy Pig wanted to buy a new armchair while Peppa was looking at strange things. Among them stood a tall, dusty mannequin. It had no face, just a smooth white surface. "Mummy, look, this one is funny," said Peppa. "Ugh, it's creepy." Mummy Pig snorted, but the shopkeeper, a thin old man with empty eyes, suddenly said, "Take it. It shows your home." Mummy Pig laughed, but somehow the mannequin ended up in their car trunk. Evening, the mannequin was placed in the corner of Peppa's bedroom, covered with the sheet. That night, Peppa woke up to a creaking sound. Her bedroom door was slightly open. She looked over and gasped. The mannequin was now standing at her door, without the sheet. "Mummy," she whispered. No answer, only the creaking. And then it smiled. Peppa screamed. Daddy Pig ran in and said she must have imagined it. But every night it was closer. Peppa realized it moves when no one's watching. It waits until everyone is asleep. One night, the mannequin disappeared. In its place stood a new figure. It was pink. It had a tiny snout and Peppa's dress. And the real Peppa was never seen again. Mummy Pig strokes the new doll and says, You're such a good, obedient girl." And the mannequin now stands in George's room, waiting. Deleted Peppa Pig episode, The Ceiling Virus, which was never showed on TV. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to see more interesting videos. It started with a cough. First Daddy Pig, then Mummy Pig. They told Peppa it was just a cold and warned her not to leave her room at night. But Peppa didn't sleep. She heard rustling and creaking from above. Not the attic, the ceiling. One night she opened her eyes and saw Mummy, but not standing. She was crawling along the ceiling, slowly, head down. Her hands clung to the plaster like spider legs. Daddy Pig followed behind her. Their eyes were white, their mouths slightly open, but they were silent. Only the scratching of their feet above. "Peppa, are you awake?" whispered Mummy, without moving her lips. Peppa pretended to sleep. In the morning, everything seemed normal, but the parents didn't eat, didn't blink, didn't laugh. And at night, they crawled again. Peppa found an old newspaper in the attic. Unknown virus turns the infected into night crawlers. Their bodies change. They hunt by sound. The last line was circled in red. "Never open your eyes if you hear movement above, even if it's your parents' voice." Now Peppa doesn't sleep. She hears something dripping from the ceiling and whispering, "You're next, Peppa." Deleted Peppa Pig episode, The Last Frequency, which was never showed on TV. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to see more interesting videos. At work, Daddy Pig was given a strange gift, a radio receiver covered in cracks. "Old but stylish," Daddy Pig exclaimed happily. "We'll listen to it in the evenings." That evening, the radio picked up only static, but exactly at 3:33 a.m., it came to life on its own. In the silence of the bedroom, a voice was heard, quiet, scraping.
"Time to tune in. Time to tune in."
Daddy Pig got up first, then Mummy, then the children. They walked barefoot, heading toward the forest. In the clearing stood an old radio transmitter, rusty with wires sticking out like roots. Around it circled others, just like Daddy Pig, but not him. Strangers. And there, behind the trees, he was waiting. Slender Man. He just stood there. But the radio inside each of them was already receiving the signal. Peppa tried to cover her ears, and for the first time noticed black liquid was dripping from them. The signal was inside. "Turn off the radio," she whispered to herself. "Daddy, please." Daddy Pig, as if hearing through the haze, struck the radio. It cracked, and everything disappeared. In the morning, the radio lay broken. No one remembered anything. But Peppa knows for sure, if the radio is ever turned on again, the frequency will find them. And so will Slender Man. Deleted Peppa Pig episode, Daddy's Jealousy, which was never showed on TV. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to see more interesting videos. One morning, Peppa woke up to shouting in the kitchen. Daddy Pig and Mummy Pig were arguing loudly. "You were with Rabbit again," yelled Daddy Pig. "Every day. The garden, the garden. And what about me?" "He was just helping with the carrots," Mummy Pig answered softly. Daddy Pig didn't believe her. His round face turned red with jealousy. That night, he didn't sleep. He sat in his chair, staring into the darkness, his face calm, his eyes unblinking. The next morning, he left. He told the family he was going to the city. But in truth, he went to see his close friend, the head of the wolves. Everyone had heard of him, of his power, of how he rarely left his house. Daddy Pig handed him a photograph of Mr. Rabbit. "He's too close to my wife," Daddy Pig whispered. "Make him disappear." That very night, Mr. Rabbit didn't return home. Peppa noticed that Mummy Pig cried more and more often in the bathroom. "Where's Mr. Rabbit, Mummy?" she asked one day. "He left for good," and Daddy Pig smiled, wide, silent. He was calm again, too calm. But one night there was a knock at the window. It was 3 a.m. On the porch stood the head wolf. "You didn't tell me he was my friend," he said, staring Daddy Pig in the eyes. "You didn't tell me he fed my pack." Then the house went dark. The next morning it was empty, just scratches on the walls and tufts of gray fur by the door. Deleted Peppa Pig episode, The Mushroom That Shouldn't Be, which was never showed on TV. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to see more interesting videos. One autumn day, Peppa, George, Mummy Pig, and Daddy Pig went for a walk in the forest. The leaves were bright, the air crisp. George found an acorn. Daddy Pig was photographing nature, and Peppa noticed something strange at the base of a tree. "Look, a mushroom," she shouted. The cap of the mushroom was rust-colored, covered in black specks. Dark liquid dripped from its underside. "Don't touch it, Peppa," said Mummy Pig. "That doesn't look like a normal mushroom." But Peppa had already leaned in and smelled it. The scent was sweet, sticky, like candied meat. And suddenly a larva emerged from under the mushroom cap, fat, white, shiny. Peppa recoiled, but it was too late. That night, Peppa woke up. Her stomach hurt and her skin itched. She went to the bathroom and turned on the light. On her cheek, a bump. It pulsed. Peppa pressed it with her hoof, and something white appeared from beneath her skin. "Mummy!" she cried. The next morning, Peppa was silent. She didn't eat. She just sat and scratched. There were already 3 bumps on her neck. A day later, she didn't get out of bed at all. Her whole body was covered in red spots, from which tiny tentacles emerged. It wasn't Peppa lying on the bed anymore. It was something pale, covered in fungal growths, from which larvae slowly crawled out. The mushroom was growing. The larvae were awakening. The pig family was no longer a family. They were a colony.